bandwagon thinking is bad. Jumping on 100% or ignoring it is what's bad. That's the key here. It's not the bandwagon itself, it's how we react to it. And a key thing is jumping on 100% without thinking is actually a danger Will Robinson moment.
We are not saying that bandwagons are bad. They are great, exciting, wonderful things that have changed the way that we work, the way Bob and I think. Spotify changed the way that I think. Safe changed the way that I think.
Yep.
But I had the opportunity to appropriately step in, evaluate, and then peel back and say, okay, this is the bit for me. Right? But I had the opportunity.
And he had the benefit of having me there that pulled him away from the safe fire. I want you to get a good night's sleep. Maybe have a few drinky poos tonight before you go to bed. Have a really good night's sleep. Get up in the morning. Go into the bathroom. Look in the mirror. Oh, if it's a little steamy, wipe that mirror off so you can clearly see yourself in the mirror. And ask yourself, literally ask out loud, ask yourself, have I jumped on the AI bandwagon? Have I mindlessly or thoughtlessly? Be honest. Am I 100% committed, or have I been thoughtful about it? Where am I at on the curve? Entry music. Da, 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 da. It's the Bob and Josh show.
Hey, Bob, you know what we should do?
What?
We should do what everybody else is doing. We should start a podcast and we should post it on YouTube. And that's how we'll get famous, right? Because that's what everybody's doing. That's the bandwagon. Let's jump on the bandwagon.
I'm with you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You think we should do that?
Yeah. Well, if everyone's doing it, that's the story of my career, Josh.
Yeah.
I haven't made a decision in my entire life. I just looked out there and said, "Where's the bandwagon?" And I jumped on it. I mean, way back in the day, mainframes. Josh, I jumped on the mainframe and asked me, "How's that working for you, Bob?" So
okay,
it worked at the time. What?
Listeners, viewers, we're kidding, but we're not. Today's episode is about bandwagons and how unfortunately quick our industry is to jump on them. Bob has a history of bandwagons that he's seen come and go. And we believe there are some bandwagons that are currently overburdened with people jumping on them. And we'll talk through those. We'll talk through some of those. AI is going to be one of those things. We'll talk about the bandwagon that is AI. There are pros and cons. I'll talk through things that the teams I'm working with, how we are using it, where we think it's appropriate, where we don't think it's there yet, or maybe it will never be there. But our goal for today's episode is to give you a smellerometer to smell that BS. Is this a bandwagon that I should jump on, or is this a bandwagon that I should turn my nose up and walk away from? Or should I just keep an eye on it? So that's what today's episode is about. There are bandwagons everywhere. Do you let them drive by, or do you jump on? How do you figure that out?
So one type, can I start, Josh?
Please do.
One type that I think of is company/leadership, and that aligns with the Metacast. So companies and the leaders of those companies. And Metacast is, I'm going to take you back on a trip down memory lane. So and then Josh can bring us current. GE, Jack Welch, he wrote books. This is personal to me because at one point I wanted to be Jack Welch. I read everything he said. I was jumping on the GE CEO leadership style bandwagon, and I was trying to be, Jack. And this was more personal. I wasn't subjecting the companies to it, but I was bringing it to my personal style, which is how I was showing up as a leader. A little bit closer to home, then there was the technology, the early technology, Apple and Microsoft, for goodness sakes. Gates wrote a book. He's wrote a couple books. I don't know, software, the Microsoft way. I think the Microsoft way, right? And it wasn't just about software. It was about how they made decisions and how they did technology and things. So a lot of people were trying to jump on the Microsoft leadership style. I want to be Bill Gates. Or another alternative around that same time, competing alternatives, Apple, right? And I want to be Jobs. I want to be Steve Jobs. And both of them weren't exactly great role models if you uncovered them. But and the companies were so one of the premises of bandwagons is they're incredibly successful at the time, and a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon. It wasn't just the books, and it was doing that. So it's leadership styles to etc. Now I want to come fast forward to today, and one bandwagon that annoys the crap out of me, and probably Josh will be much more amenable to it than me, is the Elon Musk story, right? And Elon at X, and Elon at Tesla, and Elon at what the NASA, whatever it's SpaceX,
Right.
etc. And how everyone is trying to be Elon. A lot of people are trying to emulate him, but there are also modern companies like Meta, and Google to a lesser degree. Google kind of, but I think Meta is out there as an exemplar bandwagon role model. Josh, react to anything I've said?
Yeah, I think if I look back over the past 15, 20 years, there was the Facebook model of move fast and break things. I think that
Yep.
was the thing of like, and so the number of people that wanted to do that jumped on the bandwagon of that. Spotify, which I was a large, I still am a proponent of. I think Spotify is fantastic. Spotify did not set out to become a model or to become a thing. There was an article that was written about some of the interesting things that they were doing, and so then there became the Spotify model. And I had the luck of speaking to some of the people that were a part of that, and they were like, there's no Spotify model. The stuff that's in that paper, we don't do anymore. We've evolved past that. Like that's a thing we did. But it was people latching onto things. Musk has been successful with things. Now you look under the covers and you wonder how much success has been driven by him as a innovator, a technologist, versus him as the business person making things happen. That there's still a lot to be learned and be known there. For the younger generation that's out there, a guy that I think is actually very good, but has the potential to be bandwagoned and have people end up in bad spots, is Alex Hormozy. So he has built some very successful companies, and he's fantastic in that he just wants to give back. So he publishes YouTube video after YouTube video about how he built his companies and the millions that he's made. And there's some fantastic stuff in there, but it has the potential to end up like Spotify as well, where people misunderstand, misinterpret, they grab onto one nugget and like, oh, to be successful like Alex, I got to go do this. And so they take that very narrow approach. So the thing that has to happen is that people can't view it. I think the term Bob used earlier, I don't know if it was actually in the episode or in our prep, was a panacea, as it doesn't solve everything. So you have to understand, you have to learn, there is no silver bullet. You can't just copy this because everybody's situation is different. We even talked about that Agile is a bit of a bandwagon and everything that has happened there.
I think there's two types of bandwagons, or maybe an evolutionary scale of bandwagons that we're alluding to, Josh. Is you mentioned Alex or whatever. So it's well-intentioned at the beginning. Spotify is actually a better example of this. Spotify never projected to be, they were never a best-in-class anything. They were sharing, they were kind enough to share, this is how we do our work. So I don't think they had, they had no bad ill intent at all.
Mm-hmm.
None whatsoever. And they weren't trying to do anything. The world reacted to them with this youthful enthusiasm and grappled onto them and jumped on that bandwagon. And they actually, I think in their case, it's interesting. They couldn't undo it.
Right.
It actually took on, and they didn't try. They were like, "Oh, right. Well, we 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that's how we operated. We're evolving, but you all can get stuck there if you want. You can jump on that bandwagon if you want." So then there are people who almost promote their models. I think Gates, for example, at Microsoft, like the Microsoft, there's a little bit of hubris in writing a book that's right, a business leadership book, the Microsoft way, right? Sharing that. I do think like the Google folks did something like that, or Jobs to some degree. Those folks are actually putting themselves out there as we are a model. There's a bit of ego, a bit of hubris, uh, and you run the risk then of you have the misinterpretation, but also you lack the humility. You're not even you almost get caught up in your own bandwagon, and you don't see the need to evolve. You don't see the need to reinvent yourself. So I think there's different maybe evolutionary paths for the bandwagon.
I, I second that, and that can be that's a very easy trap to fall into. That happened to me at the Dude. We became so enamored with the process, the team that we had built, the product that we were building. We thought we were great. We even had a Dude Day. Like, we had our own conference where we invited people from across the area to come in and learn how we were doing things. One, it was promoting us because we were trying to
Yep.
grow. Two, we were proud. Three, we just wanted to share because we actually were getting, because of the content that I created, the podcast that we have, that there were a lot of questions. And so, why don't we have a Dude Day? This would be amazing. And it was successful. We were happy with it. But what it turned into was I started to believe that we had the silver bullet. And that proved itself wrong as we acquired various companies, and I was responsible for getting all of their technology up and running and efficient and working the way that we were. So I forced everybody to use our model. I forced everybody into the Dude way. And that was a disaster. That was just a disaster. And so what I had to learn is that all these companies that we acquired were successful for a reason. That the people building those products and processes and teams were really good at what they did. They understood the problems that they had to solve. And the way I was solving the problems that we had here in Raleigh with our tech that we were doing worked for us. But they didn't work for the team in Canada that we acquired. They didn't work for the team that was a couple miles down the road. They didn't work for the team in Asia that we acquired. All these different things, it just didn't work. So I learned a lesson the hard way of there is no silver bullet. There is no single answer to rule them all. You have to understand, you have to be thoughtful. You have to engage your brain and go figure out what works. I was just trying to stamp it out. Like, I felt like it had become a machine of like, I know the right answer here. You do this, you do our chapters, you do the way we do our planning with the PSIs, you have these roadmaps, this is how you do it, and you're just going to work. Wrong. And so I fell into that trap, and I created a bandwagon that there were some people that hopped on, and it created a bit of a mess, not only for us, for our internal teams, but there were other people across the area, across the region that tried to adopt some of the things that we were doing. And guess what? It didn't work because it wasn't right for them.
That's why I got fired from that company, because I tried to follow you. Thanks, Josh. Now, the Dude way.
You're welcome.
Now you can now you should write a book, a posthumous book, right?
Yes.
The Metacasters Josh backed into something that I think is a bit of a different twist in the bandwagons. Is there's the responsibility on the applier, or the responsibility either on the generator, but on the on the person applying. I jumped on the bandwagon. Now it's not their it's their fault. Now I'm an adopter. And do I engage my brain, or do I disengage my brain? And I see this happening, or one of my worries is this is happening in AI. Is, are we, as an adopter, are we just following? I think this is part of this. So the bandwagons, I've never seen a bandwagon that survived for more than a decade or two. There's probably examples out there, but they typically, because they're static, it's a static view of the bandwagon. Well, of course, things change, so it becomes less and less applicable over time. Well, if you're just jumping on the bandwagon and you're just safe, I've flamed on Scaled Agile framework, and they've modified it, but it's still the same old bandwagon for scalability. And at some point, it becomes less and less irrelevant. It's not adapted to every situation. And if you do use it, it requires a human brain to make it work. Like there's safe out of the box, and then there's safe with Josh Anderson. Safe out of the box, I think, is a horrible idea, which is why I flame it. Safe plus a human freaking being that knows what they're doing, Josh, for example, that can work. Metacasters, I'm going on record saying safe is okay as long as you have an informed human who understands it, understands the context, and can apply it intelligently and decide what works and what doesn't work, and then evolve that over time. Now, most safe installs don't have that. They might have an automaton that just follows the safe rules or something like that. So in the application, it's really, I think, one of the important bits. And the wordy version is Josh nailed it. The application, the human has to make it successful, and that's missing in so many instances of bandwagonism.
Yeah, for the technology folks that are listening to this, take a moment and think about some of the web-based frameworks that have evolved over time. So back when I started in the last millennia, we would do a lot of work server side, and we would build the HTML and send all the HTML to the front. We do all the work on the server because the servers were bigger, better, faster. We didn't know what kind of computers, what the browser was like. So we did as much work on the back end, do that, like give the least amount to the browser to render itself, and that's it. That does that. Then some of the frameworks that have evolved over the years, over the last 20, 25 years, moved more and more work into the browsers. The browsers got better, personal computers got better. You could do more work in the browser. It was easier to just kind of do that. It was more responsive, reactive, all those things. You could just kind of do stuff. Guess what's evolved again? There's more and more work, more and more frameworks that are coming out where we're pushing work back into the server side, and the server's doing the work. And there's good reasons of why we've gone the full circle. There were logical reasons of why we made the shifts that we did. But I expect, fast forward another 10 years or so, and we'll probably look back at, man, the way we were building web products in the mid 2020s didn't make a lot of sense. We should push more work into the browser. There's a new framework that's out there. Everybody jumps on that. That's going to be a thing. It's going to go through a cycle. So these cycles happen. Think about the databases that are out there. Think about the NoSQL databases that popped up and they were all the rage and they were the thing. And now a lot of people are getting back to relational databases. So, and again, it's gonna have its ebbs and flows, and you can't over rotate. You can't over adopt things. You really have to be steady and consistent and pull the things that are right for you. And that requires you to do the thing that I've said, the thing that Bob said, that I'm going to say again, is you have to engage your brain. You can't just turn it off and say, like, tell me what the answer is. If you do that, you're going to fall flat on your face, because like the example I gave about when I failed, I gave people answers. I said, these are the answers that you need. Forget the way you've done things. These are the answers that you need. If you want to be successful here at the dude, here's your answer. Just do that. But that doesn't make sense. I don't care. This is the answer. That I know how to get the right answers here at the dude. I'm telling you, here are the answers. And guess what? It blew up in my face. And it was my fault. It was my mistake. And I learned some good lessons. But that's because I didn't engage my own brain, and I asked people to turn their brains off. And boy, did that blow up. That was ugly.
It's the people. Even in AI, Josh, I know AI it's probably different. You're much more of an AI expert and user than I am, clearly. But I do talk to people about it. I do it. I understand enough. My key worry is not the things that it's useful for. There are a genre of tasks and activities that it's useful for, and it's going to continue to evolve that way. But there's this one aspect of it is I see so many leaders. I talk to a lot of senior leaders in really big companies, and they're like throwing like gazillions of dollars at AI, and they're doing the projections. It's going to, we're going to be able to cut 30% of the workforce. Our customer support lines, we're going to be able to cut 30% of the people, or 30% of our overall staff, and offshore, off AI here. And I mean, in my heart, I know that's a bandwagon response. It's I know they're going to have to reflect back. They're going to have to come back and undo that. And they will have fired people. I saw a note on LinkedIn the other day where a CEO has already gone full circle. They're like, crap, we need to bring humans back into our client support. Right. So they went totally into AI, and not that it's useless, but they're like, oh, and they're hiring again to come full circle in that sort of that overreaction and correction sort of loop. And I think that's there's going to be more of that. And I think the youthful enthusiasm around AI is probably as high about anything that I've seen in 20 or 30 or 40 years. Probably higher than any of those things. From the point of view of folks thinking that it's going to absolutely change their business models, their cultures, etc. And it's that same missing thing, Metacasters. I know I sound like a dinosaur, but we need the humans. Damn it, we need human beings are not going to be refactored out of the equation. Maybe some of them, but good, bright, capable, thoughtful, creative human beings are still needed and will be. Josh, get in the AI.
Yeah, so I'm a big user of AI, but I use it as an assistant. I have yet to find a way to fully blindly trust it. There are some interesting code editors that are out there. Cursor is a big one. And so Cursor has this setting called YOLO mode. YOLO, for those of you that don't know, means you only live once. So you turn on YOLO mode and it just goes, and it runs unchecked, and it goes and just builds stuff. Normally, the way it works is you ask it to do a task. It says, hey, here's the things I did. Give it a once over. Do you like it? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, cool. I'll go do the thing. Here's what I'm doing next. And you check along the way. With YOLO mode, it's just rolling, and its stuff gets built, and sometimes it's awesome and sometimes it's not. And so there are a lot of folks that are like, just YOLO mode it, right? It's going to just trust it, just let it go. And for that to be successful, there's a handful of people that I know that are really successful with that. But guess what they had to do? And guess what they're still doing? They still had to do what I call the product work. They still had to generate all of this context to give the AI a chance to be consistently correct, consistently accurate. And even then, they've even showed me some charts of the number of suggestions and the number of things or the number of lines of code that it's generated versus the lines of code that were accepted. So this is a team that's really good at it. And there were 3x lines of code generated versus the amount that were accepted. And they are doing great. They are using this. They are excited. They're finding more and more ways to do it. But even with that enthusiasm, 2/3 of what the system is suggesting they do, they are intelligently discarding, because there's still not enough of the full context of everything that's going on to make that happen. Will AI ever get there? I don't know. That is the quadrillion-billion-dollar question. But I can tell you it's not there yet. So if you expect it to solve 100% of the problems 100% of the time, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to end up like that example that Bob shared, where they've gone full circle. Like, oh my gosh, we've created a monster. It's run amok. We need some humans to corral it, and that's just a thing that has to happen.
Oh,
yeah.
Josh,
Yes, sir.
Can I talk?
Yeah. Can I talk?
I know. No, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought.
I ruined it.
I know.
We need AI to go figure it out again.
Oh my God.
Let's see. What was I talking about? AI, a third of the code that they were using was working. Make sure you have humans that come
I know
back and
where I
check the
was.
work. Okay, there we go. We got it.
No, but you sort of said something like, we don't know yet on AI. The jury's still out. I'm getting tired of people saying that,
Oh, really?
right? Yeah. Editcasters, and Josh is going to kill me, but we're in different rooms. We're in different locales. So it'll be a delayed death. But uh, AI is a bandwagon. AI, we are interpreting so there's a pattern. Look back, there's a pattern. Now, Microsoft, everyone, last time I checked, Microsoft is still a company. Bill Gates is no longer there. They've evolved. They're still viable. They're still making gajillions of dollars for their stockholders. So the bandwagon didn't get destroyed, but as a way of doing business, right? As a paradigm shifting that's going to bring us into the future, and it'll be the way every company forms. Every company will look like Microsoft. It was just a bandwagon, and I'm going to argue that AI is a bandwagon, and that yes, it'll keep growing, etc. But it's the youthful enthusiasm will get tempered. The model where humans need to step up, the understanding humans will start rising up and be necessary. Will there be that abuse, the overuse curve, and then the correction curve? That'll be happening thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of times, etc. But it's inevitably a bandwagon, and then it'll just become AI. And in 10 years, there's going to be another bandwagon. Probably Elon Musk will have something called, I don't know, Teslaville, where where the world will be, right, self-driving Teslas will be everywhere or something, and that'll be the new bit. Not Elon will no longer be there. He'll be like managing the world, but the Tesla way will be another bandwagon. So that's that curve that we have to navigate, is what I'm trying to say, and part of that navigation is us stepping up. So I have a different view, Josh, a
I,
little bit of a
I
different.
I don't disagree with you at all. To some of your points you made earlier, I think this is the biggest and fastest bandwagon we've ever seen.
Yes,
And it is evolving faster than we've ever seen. The number of
absolutely.
companies that are building
Oh,
interesting models that people are then jumping on the bandwagon and using very quickly, it is amazing. And so I think it's going to continue to get better. I think, and I expect, we go back to the cycles we talked about, it's going to hit the cycle where it's going to filter itself out. The way we use AI is going to become a bit of a norm. It's starting to become the norm. There's a lot of people using, but there's still a lot happening. And the bandwagon, this is without a doubt the biggest and the fastest, like, runaway train that we've
agreed.
ever seen.
Agreed.
And
Absolutely.
now, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It's just recognize it for what it is. Recognize that it's a runaway train. Engage your brain. That's the saying of the day. And find the bits that make sense for you. Don't blindly latch onto it and just say, like, take me to the promised lands. Right? That is a recipe for disaster. As I talked about, I did that personally with my own train that I built and various things along the way. So yes, but there's value in it, just like there's value in safe. To Bob's point, there's value in safe when applied correctly by a skilled leader. There's value in AI when applied correctly by a skilled leader or skilled team. It's all there. Just temper your
Here's
enthusiasm a little bit.
here's the test, Metacasters. I want you to get a good night's sleep. Maybe have a few drinky poos tonight before you go to bed. Have a really good night's sleep. Get up in the morning. Go into the bathroom. Look in the mirror. Oh, if it's a little steamy, wipe that mirror off so you can clearly see yourself in the mirror. And ask yourself, literally ask out loud, ask yourself, have I jumped on the AI bandwagon? Have I mindlessly or thoughtlessly? Be honest. Am I 100% committed, or have I been thoughtful about it? Where am I at on the curve? That's all we're asking. Now, what we're saying is, if you're on and it's okay. Remember the bandwagons. Everyone's jumping on the bandwagons. You're not a bad person, but this is the check. This is the quality check. Have you jumped on too hard? And do you need to take a step back and reevaluate and think about it? Engage this AI. And as Josh told me in the pre-work, I have a big A up here and a really little I.
Right.
But still gauging your AI before and then if you need to do some adjustments, that's the point. Then make those adjustments. Engage some of those adjustments. Maybe the adjustment is to go closer.
Mm.
I don't really care. Right? Maybe it's to step in. Maybe it's to step out. But that's the thought. That's the reflection process I'm alluding to.
And I challenge you to do that on a regular basis.
Yeah,
Maybe not every day, once a week, once a month. Constantly evaluate where you're at with the current bandwagons, whatever bandwagons you're on. I guarantee that you need to make an adjustment. To Bob's point, you either step into it more or you step back a little bit, but you have to constantly evaluate your attachment to the bandwagon and how you should apply it. Do I lean in more? Do I use it more? Do I need to back off a little bit? You have to consistently do that. We are not saying that bandwagons are bad. They are great, exciting, wonderful things that have changed the way that we work, the way Bob and I think. Spotify changed the way that I think. Safe changed the way that I think.
Yep.
But I had the opportunity to appropriately step in, evaluate, and then peel back and say, okay, this is the bit for me. Right? But I had the opportunity.
And he had the benefit of having me there that pulled him away from the safe fire. Maybe that was a little overly dramatic, but pulled him away.
Yes. So bandwagons are good as long as you use them appropriately and understand how and when you need to lean in and lean out. So if there's one takeaway, do not take this as Bob and Josh saying every bandwagon is bad. No, we just talked about examples that change the way we operate, that change the way we think. Just engage your brain, be thoughtful. That's all.
Well, and you become the bandwagon determinator, right? So that's what we're really so bandwagon thinking is bad. Jumping on 100% or ignoring it is what's bad. That's the key here. It's not the bandwagon itself, it's how we react to it. And a key thing is jumping on 100% without thinking is actually a danger Will Robinson moment. And history shows that many, many, many times over. Now you have the option of doing that. We're just trying to pull you off that a little bit. All right. So from beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina.
And beautiful downtown Fuquay Arena, North Carolina.
I'm Bob Galen.
And I'm Josh Anderson.
Shake
and bake.
Take care, y'all.